Hi, interhumans. It's me. Yes, change of scenery. I'm back in my own personal space, so not as much natural light, which kind of sucks. I will probably eventually try to get decent light as it gets to be winter, cause once it's winter, I'm kind of screwed. For light in this room. This room has really bad lighting, but it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna make it work. Anyway, I'm here feeling better, as you can see. And this week's topic is something that's quite personal to me. Um, I've I've always been someone that's deeply into esotericism. I'm also someone that is super into psychology, and I'm also someone that's like very aware of the fact that I am a woman in a world that was built by men. Am I one of those women that is like the kind of feminist who's gonna walk around and scream about things? Not quite. But I am the kind of feminist that like understands that equality is more complicated than we want it to be. So the big thing that I wanted to start with this week is I want to go back I want to go back and then come back to where we are now. So I want to go back on this topic as far as I possibly can. And to be able to do that, I have to think about diagnoses. I have to think about occurrences, things that happened, life in general, the things. So, and I actually have like, maybe I'll publish it someday. I don't know. I have like continuously since 2016 been writing a book. Like physically, I have a notebook that I started writing a book in, which is also going to make it a hard sell to publish because it would have to be typed up, unless it's one of those like manuscripts that you kind of like publish as like a written copy. I don't know how that works, but anyway, so yes, it's a topic that has definitely always been super close to my heart, and I'm gonna tell. I think that I do sometimes say a bit about myself, so this is probably gonna be a lot more about myself than I usually say, but here we go. So since I was like a really little girl, I've always been a little bit different. I was the kind of kid that you would see me standing outside talking to someone and come ask me, what are you doing? And I'll be like, oh, I'm just conversating with the wind. I also had quite vivid hallucinations, really bad nightmares, particularly spiders. Like spiders come up in my dreams and nightmares quite often. There's actually this running joke between me and someone quite special in my life that I am the queen of webs. It was the queen of spiders first, but then we found out that in oracle cards, the queen of spider. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If there's any witchy babes joining at any point, please correct me if I'm wrong. But apparently, the card for the queen of spiders is a really bad omen, and the queen of webs is the more positive version, like in the rising. And yeah, I don't know tarot cards well enough to talk on this topic too much. It's just like something that's come up. But yes, I used to and I still do get like really weird nightmares about spiders in general. Also sometimes when I'm having like some interesting days, actual spiders will just appear, and like bugs do love me as well. But yeah, so like I always had this affinity for animals, and especially insects. Like insects are really drawn to me. So I guess it's a really good thing that I am like a anti-kill person when it comes to stuff like that. I am in no way a vegan though. Mostly for health concerns. I did try it upon a time a while ago, but like mostly for health concerns I had to start eating meat again. But like I am very much anti-kill. Like I don't want to kill something myself. It's just my personal belief. um but I still think it's really relevant then to the end, like the rest of the conversation. So then eventually what happened was I was just always a little bit strange. I was seeing ghosts, Whether you believe in that or not, whether I believe in that or not, I'm not always 100% sure myself. Uh, there was, and then it started on a journey. It started my life on a journey because in 1991 I was born. I'm 35 this year. And I always had adverse health problems. Like I now have the FND, for example. Like I've always had quite adverse health problems. And it always was tied to some kind of psychiatric element. Like I always had like auditory and visual hallucinations. Uh, Usually because of the way I was raised, because I was raised apostolic. So it was like very Christian, very South Christian, raised in the beginning. Obviously that has changed. But so because of that, I kind of like started feeling like something was wrong with me. And it's only in more recent years that like when I started self-studying and started working with children with similar disabilities and worse disabilities than my own, and just doing like behavioral psychology and like the basic things you do when you work with kids. So it just kept evolving. And as I said, this is a topic that for that reason has been with me my entire life. And when I look back on our world as a whole, the thing that I always come to is that things like mental illnesses, we all agree that they've always existed. It's not a new thing that has just suddenly popped up. Like it's always been around. We just had different names for things. Like people who were innately schizophrenic in, for example, ancient Greek, they were definitely called oracles because they had visions, and sometimes they came true, sometimes they didn't, but it's all in the hands of God, you know? So, like, at least, like, some oracles did get for that, but a good part of them were just like, oh, but it's in the hands of the gods, or like you angered the gods, like that kind of thing. We know this narrative because it's still being preached in like every religion up until today, where it's like, no, but you're not praying enough. You didn't give your, what do they call that? The 10% of your salary thing that you're supposed to give to the church. I don't know what that is called anymore. Collection? I don't know. But anyway, so like it's a narrative that has been following. And then specifically the thing that I want to talk about, because like for me to talk on the situation of male mental health, I feel that it would paint me as a hypocrite trying to comment on something that I don't have personal experience on. Obviously, I've worked with males, I've worked with boys, I've worked with them, but I don't live in the body of a man, so therefore the topic will very much be more in this light of like a feminist point of view, for the sake of I'm a woman, so I can't talk on these topics outside of my gender. So the thing that I wanted to focus on is specifically, I've been watching a lot of videos lately where they're doing, and as always, I'm gonna share a highlight reel at the end of the video, and I will include all the relevant links. Also, I backpost all of these to YouTube. All of the links and things will be in there with times when they get uploaded, like all the things. But I do think a lot of it's like really interesting to go and watch. Mostly because like I like being able to show people that I do actually do like some kind of research for the things that I do. I don't script what I say. That's why I sometimes mess up or start giggling, because sometimes some of the things that I say does feel a little bit uncomfortable for me to talk about. But I was watching this video recently about this girl that was haunted. And they actually made a movie about it, The Haunting of Emily Rose, or The Possession. No, it was The Possession. I don't know if it was The Haunting or The Possession, but the point is the Emily Rose story. her name wasn't actually Emily Rose. In real life, she had a different name, which I cannot remember now. Again, this is not scripted. It's just like what I remember from what I watched. But the links will be in the thing, including in this case, like, I'm going to give you a trigger warning though. One of the links that I am going to be uploading, it's going to be the second link under haunting, the like heading of haunting, the second link. If you're a sensitive viewer, please do not open that link, because it is literally all of the tapes of her being going through her exorcisms. So it's a really hard listen. I know there are people that want to have these kind of evidence things to like make their own choices. That's why I am including it. But please, 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 if you are in any way a sensitive viewer, do not open the second link, because that is going to be the link where it's literally just all of the tapes of her going through an exorcism routine. So yes, but the first link is just the documentary on her and her situation. And the one thing that stood out for me in her case, and in so many other hauntings and possessions and things that I've been able to see and find, is the fact that you don't really get people who are possessed or haunted that don't come from some kind of religious affiliation. I specifically did not go into haunting videos on different religions, mostly because of the trigger content. Because whenever you go into a religion beyond Christianity, like the documentaries on Christianity tend to be quite sanitary for viewing, whereas like when it goes into like Indian or Asian, for example, those can be quite traumatic to watch, because they do live footage right throughout the documentaries. So again, the second link, don't, like, it's literally just raw footage. It's bad. But it kept coming back to me, the fact that like what was going on for this girl. Because I don't want to say that hauntings aren't real. I don't want to say that people of religion is wrong. I don't want to say any of those things, because it's simply not something that I want to, like, I know it's like not the right phrase for this, but I always say I don't want to yuck someone's yum. And I know that's usually related to food, but in this context, my brain just can't think of a better thing to do. But like, I try not to judge people based on their beliefs. So if someone does believe in hauntings, that's their prerogative. I also don't completely not believe in it, because I had experiences myself of seeing things. I was also I will rather, just for the sake of the privacy of the people involved in the situation beyond myself, I also went through like an exorcism when I was a teenager. So like for me, it's really difficult, because like I very much know that what I was feeling during that procedure felt very, very real to me. But a part of me, the more like logical side, the more scientific side, let's go there, doesn't want to believe that it was real. So, and the fact that I know that I have some mental disorders as well makes it really difficult for me. But this girl, what was happening was that she was at college, and she started experiencing kind of like what we would call sleep paralysis nowadays. She kept feeling this force like pushing down on her, and like being incapable of breathing, and went to doctors and things. It sounded a lot like an autoimmune in the beginning. So like I was like, whoa, this is like too real almost. But yeah, it sounded like an autoimmune. Like she was going to hospital a lot. Like this was, I think it was in the 60s or the 70s. So it's like before people knew. And she kept going in and out of hospital, really long hospital admissions, because she had these adverse symptoms and nobody could figure out what was going on for this poor girl. And then eventually her parents went to their pastor. And once the pastor got involved, the symptoms got worse. Which this is kind of like even when you look at the documentaries and stuff about Ed and Lorraine Warren that's been coming out more recently, this is kind of like a thing, like a theme that people keep bringing up, that like once the spiritual practitioner got involved, everything kind of got worse. And it was very much the case for her. It eventually came to a point where she wasn't eating anymore. Every time that she did eat, she would bring it back up. And ultimately, they ended up doing not just one exorcism on her. I think it was something ridiculous, like in the 20s, like the number of exorcisms that they performed on this girl. And again, like the second link that I'm going to be uploading with the highlight reel does have all of the raw footage for those exorcisms if you do really feel like you want to witness something like that. I just really, really, really would advise, again, anybody who is in any way a sensitive viewer, please do not click on the second link. It's a bad idea. It's under the haunting like category. But now I want to bring away from the haunting thing. I want to go to female hormones in general, because as long as we can remember, like, people have everybody knows this, like, whether you're someone that only found it out in recent years, whether you've someone that known it for years, everybody has heard of the term hysteria at some point. And hysteria for me is like actually like such an interesting condition. It has been, it took us way too long to declassify that, though. Like, I have to say, I think it only went out of the DSM in like the 70s, which is obnoxious if you think about it, because hysteria was like classified by what they called the wandering womb theory. So basically what the doctors thought back in the day, they thought that a woman's womb at certain times of the month would detach and start moving around in her body, like pushing her organs like all over, creating cavities and things. And that's why she was having like these severe symptoms. And the way that they would treat this was also very, very interesting. The one was that women would use smelling salts, like just like, have you seen those? Like, I didn't actually include a video of that in the biopsy, but like, you can Google it. Like, it's everywhere on YouTube. Videos of people trying smelling salts for the first time, like people who are not unconscious. And my gosh, like, I've walked past a container of it before and it's pungent, but like these people actually go and like, and it's like it literally, what it does is it just like it just shuts everything down. And because it shuts everything down, your brain goes into alert and it's just like, wake up. So it's just like your whole body just goes like, yo, the moment you like take it into your body. But like, yeah, so women actually ended up carrying bags with just smelling salts inside of themselves, like inside of it, because like they were passing out so much, because like that was a symptom, like that was a way to resolve hysteria. But the treatment that I found to be the most interesting was they had what was called vaginal perfumes. And what these were little containers that had perfume on the inside that a woman, when experiencing a wandering womb, she would slightly insert the top of the perfume bottle. I don't know how to say things, because like, as I said, I upload these things to YouTube, and I would really like not to just get them kicked out, because it's like really difficult to like go and edit out things, and I'm trying just to do like raw backlogs. It's like, yeah, I'm not trying to do this in any fancy way. But yeah, so they would take the perfume and like, because they had a theory that because women enjoy pleasant smells, that by putting the perfume there, it would entice the womb to return to its natural state, which is very interesting, I think. Anyway, so back to the relevance of this. When a woman had hysteria, beyond the thing that they like literally like to just use hysteria to be a form of like any malady a woman experienced was called hysteria. And then Sigmund Freud came out, and he even like was like, we have male hysteria too, because people get upset, guys. Like, yeah, and like too many of the symptoms weren't like female exclusive, but sorry about that. But the big thing is that like with hysteria, some of the symptoms that were very interesting to me were the fact that 2 weeks, maybe more in a month, but usually around 2 weeks in a month, the woman would become kind of dysregulated. She would become kind of hyper agitated, very aggressive even. Like some women like go to bat, and some experience hallucinations. Some experience like really adverse psychiatric experiences, like whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, like and the thing is, once you know more about mental disorders in general, having depression or anxiety on any large scale, especially if you've already got like that as kind of a comorbidity, that you already suffer from this, can you imagine like having that even heightened? I can see how that could lead to someone experiencing something like a visual and auditory hallucination. It also gave like lots of crying for no reason, kind of acting like they were pregnant, but they weren't. And the treatment for this was, ironically, to get married and get pregnant. But the one thing that was kind of cool was that, like, as a woman, of course, the one thing that was kind of cool about this, beyond, like, being forced to get married, is that one of the treatments for this was manual stimulation. And they had, like, trained professionals to administer this treatment to women, kind of like these tantric massages that you can go for nowadays. But yeah, so that was also one of the treatments. And it's really interesting because had men not misdiagnosed women to say that we have hysteria, we would have never got vibrators, because that is literally the reason that vibrators were invented. Because the reason that women had a wandering womb was because we weren't having happy time enough. Gosh darn it, internet, I just want to talk like me. But anyway, we didn't get enough happy time, so they ended up making at first it was like a chair, which is really interesting. You guys should definitely Google images of like the way early ones. Like it was a chair that you connected to the electricity, and then it had like the chair was kind of like a toilet, like open with a hole, and inside the hole was like a phallic like device, and it moved up and down and front and back and like in all kinds of directions, and you just had to sit there and feel happy. But yeah, it was like that was one of the better treatments. I think that was a pretty good treatment, and I'm like very satisfied with the results. Like on this one, men, well done. You guys did well on this one. Thank you for this. Thank you for your service. But anyway, yeah, so hysteria, obviously, over time, people started realizing that, like, this is too much of a blanket term. Like, it just doesn't work. It, like, yeah, and, like, hysteria was also often tied to women, specifically, that were having auditory and visual hallucinations, such as that of someone experiencing a haunting. Which, like, you starting to, then, catch my drift here. Because also, when you think about it, like, more women get possessed and haunted than men. Like, in any story that you ever watch about, like, a haunting or something, it's usually the wife. The wife is usually the one that gets the pastor or the priest or the exorcist or, like, the Warrens or whoever the person is that they choose to call. Unfortunately, it's never Ghostbusters. Like, I don't understand. Can we get a Ghostbusters, please? That would be really fun. But, like, then we probably would need, like, the sludge thing to... But, like, yeah, like, who you gonna call? Apparently not the Warrens anymore, and apparently not the Ghostbusters, but... Oh, and, like, the Catholic Church also kind of, like, decided that they're not really into this, like, exorcist thing anymore, because, like, they be going to jail a lot. So, I don't really know who you're gonna call. Hopefully your psychiatrist first, because, like, I feel like that's a pretty good place to start nowadays. But, yeah, so, where was I? Bye-bye. Anyway, so what happened was that, like, over time, especially Sigmund Freud, like, I gotta give the guy this, like, he gets a lot of flack. But I understand why he gets a lot of flack, but I also do really think that people, like, misunderstand him a lot, because, like, maybe the guy just had a lot of repressed things that he was trying to tell the world that they weren't listening to. We don't know. The narratives we have today just didn't exist in that time. But he was he was one of the founders and the reason that we now do have the narrative. So that's why, like, always when people are like, the past is the worst, it's like, no, the past is the building stones. If we didn't have the past, we wouldn't have the present. So it's like, it's the present, ta-da. Anyway, so, yeah, thanks to Sigmund Freud, and his dream analogies, and, especially, like, his dream analogies was quite big, but specifically his studies on hysteria, and the fact that he was willing to make statements that a lot of people weren't. So, it's because of, like, him that we kind of got to the point where people actually can have a different diagnosis than, for example, hysteria. And eventually it got to a point where people started saying, like, wait a minute, maybe we should start asking more questions. Like, maybe we shouldn't just be assuming what's going on with women. And also we eventually did start, like, gynecology actually became a study and not, like, a hypothesis. And that also kind of worked in the direction of, like, taking the medicine out of the church, to be honest. Because, like, a big part of why medicine didn't evolve was because medicine was very much tied to the church. And the church kind of, like, saw women as Jezebel. So we were just, like, all bad and we didn't deserve the service. We were just kind of, like, this anomaly that they didn't understand. And they just, like, didn't want to. They just wanted us to not be a problem for them. But, anyway, so what ended up happening is over time we started realizing that, like, more things exist. And like I said, I was going to go back and come back and then it would maybe somehow kind of make sense. But I will reiterate some facts and stuff, but I just need to keep going towards this fucking finish line. Otherwise, I'm never going to finish this fucking story. Anyway, so Hitterdag, we are here. We are in today. Now, today, we know that, like, a lot of people like to make jokes about PMS. Like, oh, she just got PMS. The thing is, PMS is very real. It is a real thing. Like, your hormones do get disjointed the first 2 weeks. Yeah, hear it? 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of your cycle, some people refer to the week before, especially, like, as the luteal phase. Like, you probably saw a lot of things on, hi, Z. Sorry, I like it when people comment. So, anyway, so you've probably seen this, especially on TikTok. Like, I've seen this enough for it to frustrate me. Them talking about the luteal phase, the phase of the month, the week. And this is the thing though, like what is this about? This is about how I feel that many things in spiritual maladies, especially in the case of, like, people getting possessed or haunted, I feel that it has a correlation to, especially in women, because I can't speak on men's experiences, but as a woman myself that has gone through the rigor to finally get some answers, and a lot of questions as well, I feel like I might have a little bit of an input onto this because, like, as I mentioned a bit earlier, like, I know you just joined in, so thank you for asking, but, the thing is that, I was one of those kids that everybody thought was haunted. My oma got a shangoma in when I was a kid. I had an exorcism when I was a teenager. gone through all the psychiatry, gone through all of the things, and I'm still stuck. And I just want to kind of like figure it out with you guys if that's possible. But if not, then it's all good. But yeah, so like that's why I'm like on the topic of PMS now, because like I started where like yeah. So yeah, I started where I was like talking about like women specifically who were haunted in their lifetime, and like how they always have a religious, like they are always tied to some kind of religion. And then I went to the fact of like hysteria and like what hysteria used to be, and how hysteria got recategorized and split up into many disorders, but now it is very much the core of what hysteria was still exists, and it does have a name. It's just not something you hear often, because whenever it comes to women's hormonal issues specifically, people like to write everything off as PMS. And that's why like the luteal phase came into the discussion, because like the luteal phase is what like a lot of women refer to as the week before their period, but it actually starts more backwards, because it's like literally what happens in a woman's body is your body needs more than a week for this process to happen, by the way. The ovaries excrete follicles into your uterus. These follicles, they obviously sit around in there, causing your uterus, the wall of your uterus, to grow. So because it's doing this, it's hyperproducing hormones. And as we all know, like put a man on estrogen, like once you start hyperproducing hormones, things start going weird in your body. Your skin acts out, you feel chubby, you feel gross, everything just feels like it's too much for you. And then over time, these follicles kind of some of the follicles get absorbed, and then some of them they kind of wither away, and they become what are called yellow bodies. So the yellow bodies, that's the little guy that at the end of the day gives your body the warning sign that like, oh, you just produced all of this shit for nothing. And that's what then, because then your body needs to get rid of the yellow bodies, and that's then what causes your uterine lining to shed, and you have your period. So this takes like 2 weeks, and that's why like it frustrates me when people are just like constantly talking about the luteal phase, because like no, like can we just not? We don't have to name everything, guys. Like you can call it PMS as well if you really want to, because that is where it started. It literally started with the fact that like because your body is hyperproducing hormones, you are in kind of a dysfunctional state. Your body is not your own. Your mind is not always your own. Everything just kind of goes to shit for a little while. And in some cases, and this is why I say the basis of what hysteria started on still is alive, and still very much like it just got a new name. It is now called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And it has the word disorder because it is a recurring thing. PMS is something that women don't experience every month, as is the luteal phase, by the way. The luteal phase is literally a gynecological term that they use for the point when the yellow body starts forming after like the uterine lining has like set. So like that's what that is referring to. It's not actually related to specifically your emotions, which is really frustrating that people just kind of like grab a word and they run with it, and then everybody thinks it's legit. But anyway, yeah, so PMDD, postmenstrual dysphoric disorder, is something that happens to women every single month for a minimum of 2 weeks. And what happens is literally your body, I had the words earlier today, but I don't have them anymore. But it's a specific hormone that your body needs to produce to stabilize you during your period. But a lot of women, because what happens is your body produces progesterone. during the phase where like the follicles are releasing and stuff, because you need progesterone to want to make the hanky panky so that you can get pregnant. But then the problem is, once you start with your period, your progesterone drops. And what happens for a lot of women is when they experience this drop in their progesterone, it happens too instantly and it happens too aggressively. And they can't keep up. Their body can't keep up. Their mind can't keep up. So what happens is they go into a deficit and then they start experiencing adverse symptoms. The adverse part is the key here. Because as I said, it happens every month. It might not happen as badly every month, but it happens every month. Not like other women who like have it some months. This happens to them every month. They become erratic. They become aggressive. I experienced this. You can have hallucinations. You can even have like full-on dissociative episodes. It's literally you can't trust your body or your mind for a minimum of 2 weeks every single month. And I can see how, and like I said, I'm gonna like try to tie it all together, and like I feel quite good about the fact that I made it to the halfway mark on that, because like as I said, I don't script this shit. But yeah, so the reason I think that like many of these things can be tied to the expression of like being haunted or perceiving being haunted or possessed, depending on what the situation is. I think that what happens is, especially if someone suffers from PMDD, there are other underlying issues as well that can influence this. Like obviously if someone's schizophrenic, like, but boss, like it's gonna happen. Like doesn't matter what the situation is. But if you have someone that is in an uncontrolled mental state, someone who is not functioning, someone who's completely dysregulated, unable to keep even just doing their basic daily functions, and now you throw extreme religion into this, like, because it doesn't usually happen in families where people are just like kind of religious. It usually happens in case where you've got these people who are like Baptist, like the women aren't even allowed to wear pants type of vibes, and then they get, and what usually happens is they do grow up in like a very strict religious upbringing, where like they don't get a lot of outside information. They only like Bible. And when these, especially in the case that I'm going to be linking, when she went to university, and that's what happens to a lot of these cases, it's whenever a significant change happens, and that's the same that happens with schizophrenia. A lot of people go well into like their 30s before they have their first full schizophrenic episode. The same with bipolar, the same with FND, with fibromyalgia. A lot of autoimmunes like only manifest later in life. And I think the big thing is that it needs that significant trauma trigger. Like all of it needs that one thing to happen. And I think that's why, like, especially in the cases of people who already have like a hormonal or mental or both deficit, the moment that they get exposed to a new environment, especially an environment that is so starkly contrasted to the one that they knew, that is why the moment that happens, they start experiencing these symptoms. Because what happens with me personally, if I was having a really traumatic week, if I was exposed to a lot of my triggers all the time, especially if I wasn't able to control the situation and get myself out of the trigger, what would happen is that I often suffer from sleep paralysis nightmares. And especially if you're a very religious person, I can see how, especially sleep paralysis, like I think a lot of people have heard of sleep paralysis, but like trying to actually experience it is, it's really alarming. Because basically how it feels, if like you'll allow me this moment, like you're here, so I guess you're about listening to whatever I say. Sorry if it's boring though. But what happens is you are completely asleep. Your whole body, everything, you're in like deep sleep. This doesn't happen in REM or light sleep. This is something that happens when you're in deep sleep. That's that period of the night where like people can like come into your room and do something and you don't even know, like that part of the evening. So you're like in deep sleep. Your whole everything is shut down. Your nervous system is on break. Nothing's happening. But then you will start experiencing a nightmare. But instead of the normal situation of REM sleep, you see visions. The reason you see the pictures in REM sleep, okay, there are people who don't think in pictures or colors or sounds, which like that must be very interesting. I don't want to say it's bad, but like I can't imagine that life. But what happens is when you're in REM sleep, your eyes do rapid eye movement. That's what REM stands for. So what happens is because you're experiencing rapid eye movement, your eyes are seeing light. And the movement of the light based on your prefrontal cortex, like where your emotions and things are, is creating images that you then perceive to see, and then your emotions feed into your hippocampus and all of those things. So your whole brain is activated during REM sleep when you're experiencing these things. It's kind of like a movie, and your eyes are the lens, but it's like feeding it backwards. And so when you're in deep sleep, though, your eyes aren't moving. Your eyes are completely shut. Your breathing is super slow. Your autonomic nervous system is completely shut down and busy restarting. And then you experience a nightmare because your brain suddenly has an adverse reaction to something. It could be literally just the fact that you've had a really tough week. It could be something that happened that very day. It could be absolutely anything. But then what happens is, because you have this alert system in your brain, the amygdala, basically this little kid that screams all the time, because it's literally like a very tiny little part of your brain. But like, anyway, so like you've got this little kid in the back that likes to have a tantrum, and like suddenly this little kid is scared, and it like wakes up your brain, and your brain is like, wake up. And immediately your eyes go open. And the moment your eyes go open, your brain starts perceiving your environment, because now the film is rolling, like the outside's coming in. But your eyes opened up, but your autonomic nervous system did not start up again. So in other words, what is happening at that moment is that you can't move. You can't move. And whatever the visions is that you're seeing, whether you're having some kind of vision that is like non-realistic, like something that like you see black figures pushing in on your body, I think sometimes that might be less alarming, because like most of the cases where people actually end up getting exorcisms is usually the people that don't see anything. You're just waking up and you are like, and it feels literally like when I'm doing this, like it's like I'm pushing, but like I'm not going forward. It's that feeling. And that's what people don't get, because like you're trying to get up. And because you're trying to get up, your brain is tensioning up your ligaments. But again, your autonomic system isn't going. And until your autonomic system isn't going, nothing does that. So in other words, it feels like a presence is putting down on you because you're pushing against your body and nothing is going. So like it's a very realistic thing to feel that like you're being pushed down. And then if you are someone of a intensely religious background, I can see how that would turn into one of those like situations where you feel like you're being haunted and like someone is like controlling your body. Like I can absolutely see how that happens. And now bring into it this cocktail of hormones, especially if you're someone with PMDD, or like even worse, if you're someone with PMDD and you have like some prerequisite disorder as well. It's just this beautiful little situation of absolute chaos that happens in your brain. And now you get people feeding the delusion. You get people that come in and they keep telling you, like, bruh, this is wrong. Like, I'm looking at your face and I don't recognize you. Because this is what people do. This is what they do to you. They say, like, because, like, you tell them your concern. about what's going on in your body and in your brain. And they come to you, instead of being like, maybe you should see a professional, they're like, oh no, I can see it. Like, your voice has changed. Like, your face has changed. Like, people keep giving you these like false narratives on like the situation. And especially if you're someone that's extremely religious, like, you're going to start going there. You're going to start feeding into it. Your brain is going to go, and it's just going to run and run and run and run and run, and it's not going to be able to stop. And eventually, especially like I said, like in most cases, it's usually when some kind of expert get involved, like the priest, or in so many publicized stories, it's the Warrens, because like they are unfortunately a highly publicized topic when it comes to this topic. But whenever they get involved, the situation usually gets worse. Why? Because of what they're saying. Because unfortunately, whether you think you are someone that has an extremely strong will, no one's will is completely strong enough to counteract placebo. And if you want to believe something, you're going to believe it. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter who you are. We all are pre-programmed to do certain things. And one of the things that we are certain to do is to placebo the fuck out of ourselves. Because if we really want to believe something, we will find a way to believe it. Like, let me think, like, of a really good example of that. But, something simple, like, when you pray and you say, please God, give me a sign. I promise you, within the very same day, you will find a sign, because you are going to read meaning into absolutely everything around you. Whereas if you're walking through life every single day, if the same thing had happened, you wouldn't have read it. What is that thing? I just got a very interesting notification on the thing, but it went way too fast for me to know what it said. So if it was something that someone did, I thank you for it. But like, I don't know. I'm still figuring this stuff out. But yeah, so like, that just like kind of like killed my like whole tangent. I'm sorry about that. But I was talking about the nervous system, and then I went to, gosh, I have the brain of a goldfish when it comes... No, I'm a squirrel. I've got a squirrel brain. I get distracted so easily. But, oh yeah, an example. If the same thing ended up happening to you in your everyday life, and you had not asked for a sign before that moment, I can guarantee you, either you wouldn't have noticed the thing happening, or it would not have been that significant for you. A lot of people go through life with their shutters on their eyes. They don't look around. They just focus on what they need to do to get through every single day. And that's the thing with when you're someone that's already in a hormonal imbalance, when you're someone that's already a little bit mentally in a deficit, what's going to happen is that if people are going to feed into your delusion, and you're already... Senpai Mel, what's up? Are you American? No. Okay, what's up? Senpai Mel 7, and then Falathunda. I'm not American. I'm South African. I picked up the accent when I was living in America. Wow, it's so long ago now. But yeah, because I'm actually Afrikaans born. So when I was living in America, yeah, I know, apparently I do sound American. But Americans think I sound British, ironically enough. So there's that. Yeah, so it's just like all my friends, all the media that I consume was always American English, and my family speak Afrikaans. So I was there for a year and a half, and I just became desensitized from the English in South Africa. But very much if I'm speaking to a South African, especially if it's someone from the colored community, because like I grew up in a colored community. So the moment I speak to someone in a colored community, from the colored community, like you better know that in some moment I'm gonna sound South African again. It's just not the thing that I go to automatically anymore. My automatic response when I speak is to speak this way. But then when I hear someone else speaking close to me, because I also have synesthetic autism. So because of that, whatever I perceive around me deeply influences how I respond to things, especially accents and stuff. So there's that element to it as well. And that's why like topics like this is so important to me, because like I feel like mental health especially is something that often gets kind of it's still stigmatized. I wish we lived in better times where I didn't have to use words like stigmatized to explain it, but that is kind of the reality of it. And yeah, I usually try to aim to stop before, because whenever I'm on for an hour, the thing makes a buzzer and it like freaks my ears out. So it's actually good you guys kind of derailed me by asking these questions, so I thank you for that. Because I have to kind of like start going into the slope of finishing, so it's a good note to like wrap on. Basically the reason this topic is so important to me is the fact that I think that we as a human species are so desperate to find meaning in a world that really doesn't have a lot of meaning left. Because unless you're looking, sorry, the sun is setting, so I'm like trying to, whoa, that's bright. So like what we're doing is we're all trying to find meaning in a world where meaning has either been taken away or it's been given a price tag. And especially when it comes to stuff that is very sensational, like someone getting possessed by the devil, for example. Like, oh my gosh, the satanic Bible, for example, like Satanists get so much flack. Guys, it's one of the youngest religions on the earth. Like, Christianity and Satanism aren't equally as old as each other. Satanism is much younger, for example. Like, and I feel like a lot of people get so stuck up in what they're told to believe and what they're told to perceive. And no, I'm not a Satanist. I just it's just something that I know a bit about because I was gonna study to be a pastor like several years ago. I don't have any religious affiliation specifically. I do, however, guess I'm a spiritual person, maybe agnostic of sense, because like I'm one of those people that like I believe in everything, but like I also am very aware that like not a lot of things necessarily make sense to the world. So I kind of like want to keep faith open for in case something gets proven to exist. But the one thing that has hands down every single time been proven to me to not exist as much as people would like it to is religion specifically. It does exist in the sense of like there is definitely something out there that is beyond our reason or understanding, and I would very much like to know someday. I just don't know if I could make a choice on that right now with the information that I have. And especially the thing with I can't get over your accent. It's really unique, especially for a South African. Thank you so much for that, Fela. Yeah, no, I know it's a whole vibe. I wish sometimes I actually wish I could get rid of it because a lot of people, especially in the Afrikaans community, actually do tease me about that. I'm a 35-year-old woman and I'm still being teased about my accent like I'm a high school kid because I don't know why. I honestly don't know why people get like that. I do voice acting as well, so I guess that also strengthens it a little bit. But yeah, it is quite weird. I get asked daily about my accent. But yeah, like just like my accent, for example, there's things in this world that don't make sense. There's things that we might never know. And I have about 4 minutes left before the buzzer goes, because like I don't want that thing to scream at me. So I'm gonna try to keep it in that time. Otherwise, I'm gonna do a rapid close off at the end, because I'm terrified of the little clock thingy. But yeah, I just think that there is a lot of things in this world that we don't understand and that we often try to add meaning to. And I don't think a lot of things need that. I don't think everything has to be explained. I think magic lays in the realm of that which we do not understand. But I do also want to say that I'm really, really glad that the practice of exorcism has either been completely demolished or, at least in certain cases, just significantly lessened. Because I'm not pro medication though. Like, I'm not super mad about psychiatric medication, because like I myself was on it, and it is something that definitely made my life a lot worse. I feel much better now that, but I did do it the healthy way. I didn't go off my medication myself. I did discuss it with my mental health practitioner, and they helped me get off of it in a safe way. And I definitely do feel better afterwards. It turns out all I needed was therapy, which was a great answer. And I think a lot of people also would do much better if they had more therapy and less medication. But when it comes to something as radical as like performing an exorcism on a person's body, oh no, oh no, oh no, I didn't make it. Gosh, I hate that sound. Anyway, that was the buzzer, so I've got 5 minutes left. Anyway, yeah, so I just think, like I say at the end of all of these lives, I just think we all need to question more. I think we need to stay curious. I think we need to allow ourselves a chance to be amazed and not try to control everything in this world. But before it gives me another buzzer, I'm going to end. But in my highlight reel, I will put some relevant links to the discussion topics of the day. Again, if you're a sensitive viewer, please do not click on the second link under the haunted topic, because it is literally the raw footage, because it's like audio tapes of the possession of, like, the exorcism of the girl that I spoke about earlier. So please, if you're in any way a sensitive viewer, do not click on the second link. It is really, really, really difficult to listen to. And I'm also going to put in the link for my YouTube, where I'm posting backlogs of all of my previous lives. And then I think that's all the things. I usually post the live event to my profile as well, so that like you can see when I'm going to be doing that and what the topic is if it's something you're interested in. And yes, okay, that's it. So thank you guys for joining. Again, it's been super fun doing these things. I really, really enjoy it. And have a good week. See you next time. Goodbye, interhumans, and may peace always be with you.